Errol Spence Jr. versus Danny Garcia. Let's talk about it. What's happening, people? It is Dr. Bring It. So check this out. We are walking around my house right now. For those of you who didn't know, there was a hurricane that came up down on from the East Coast, from the Caribbean, Hurricane Isaias. I think that's how you pronounce it. But there's been a lot of knocked down trees. We had no power yesterday. Let me just show you guys what it looks like here. Lots of debris. Look at all this stuff here. Okay. All right. See all this stuff here. Let me take you for a little bit of a walk. Lots of stuff. It's a big mess. Thankfully, no trees on my property have fallen. Although we did see a lot of trees yesterday, even down the street from us. Tree service companies galore all over the place. Anyway, so what's going on, people? We have a lot of news coming out about boxing. There's news about Errol Spence Jr. agreeing to fight Danny Garcia. What do you guys think about this matchup? Are you guys really excited about Danny Garcia or what? I'll tell you what, you know what? I appreciate Danny Garcia. I appreciate him because he is a hard worker. Seems like he's a hard worker. I don't know him personally, but he always shows up. He's got not really the most exciting style out there, but fundamentally, he's solid. I mean, I can't take that away from him. The guy is fundamentally sound. He's got good defense, good enough defense. The guy has an iron chin. I mean, we've seen him fight against Thurman, and he was taking some bombs from Thurman, survived. He could hang with the best of them out there, right? So I have a lot of respect for Danny Garcia. But when he goes up against somebody like Errol Spence Jr., who many people consider a weight bully because he really should be fighting like, probably like middleweight, right? But you know what? I don't take that I don't take anything away from Errol Spence Jr. There's another company, tree service company across the street. I don't take anything away from Errol Spence Jr. because that's what people do. Why would he go up against a lot of middleweights when he could comfortably stay in the welterweight division and just clean house, right? I mean, that's what it is. If he can come down to that welterweight comfortably, why not, right? Don't hate him for that he's able to actually go down to a welterweight and dominate. You can't hate him for that. So the question though now is, how is Errol Spence after his bad accident? Now, I think what happened was he underplayed his accident. He wanted people to believe that that it really wasn't that bad, when in fact, he almost lost his life. Honestly, it's a miracle that he was even alive. If you guys saw pictures of his car after the wreck, I mean, it's just a real miracle. And for me, if that ever happened to me, which that would never have happened to me, like me drinking and driving and doing something that irresponsible anyway. But regardless, I'm not gonna pretend like I'm some saint out there. But anyway, let's see how he actually bounces back from this. And let's see how he's going to perform against a really solid fighter, Danny Garcia. Again, Danny Garcia has the power to rock his opponents, as we've seen in some of his matches. But is he going to knock out Errol Spence Jr.? We'd like to think not, that he has probably really no chance to knock out Errol Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr. has very good defense. He's got great reaction time. He's certainly not going to bully Errol Spence in any way, shape, or form. He doesn't even have that kind of style anyway. He's not like a Sean Porter where he can make it very, very physical, because Danny Garcia, he's a boxer. He's more or less a traditional boxer, likes to establish a decent jab game, and he's got good combinations. He's gonna go to the body. Again, nothing really, really flashy about Danny Garcia in any way. But I think what we're gonna see is another performance from Errol Spence Jr., how he's going to just kind of break him down. Yeah, let me break this down to you guys. Errol Spence Jr., he's got a lot of grit. He wins on grit. The guy is a warrior. He's not afraid to trade blows with his opponent. He, just like what we saw him against Sean Porter, took him to this deep water, right? And they had a war. But one thing that I don't really like about Errol Spence Jr. is that he goes into what I call zombie mode, and he just goes through the motions. He knows he's got a really good chin. He knows that he could probably outwork and outlast a lot of his opponents. So he doesn't really need to be creative. And he doesn't really show that much creativity. He just, honestly, I mean, for you diehard Errol Spence Jr. fans out there, might cringe when I say this, but he's really, really not that creative. He wins on grit. Now, if you like that gritty type of fighter, Errol Spence is your guy. And I have respect for him for that. I mean, obviously, he's champion for a reason, okay? But I would honestly say he doesn't win on creativity. He's not really that flashy. Yes, he's got speed, he's got power, he's got a nice jab, Fundamentally, obviously, I mean, he's really sound. I mean, he doesn't have great defense. He's got good defense, but as you see in the later rounds, he kind of throws it away because he just trades blows with his opponent. And honestly, my prediction with this, I don't see Danny Garcia getting knocked out. Again, it really all depends on Errol Spence Jr. Let me just take it one step further. If Errol Spence Jr. is going to knock out Danny Garcia, it's going to be like this. The strategy would have to be Errol Spence Jr. focusing on Danny Garcia's body. Take the wind out of him. Take his lungs away. Errol Spence Jr. going to establish a right jab. He's southpaw, remember. He's going to jab, and then he's got to go to the body. Take his lungs away from him early and establish the jab and the body shot very, very early. He's going to have to do this. Once Danny Garcia puts down his guard, he's going to have to respect Errol Spence's body shots. Once he brings his guard down, then it's going to open up the pain upstairs. He's going to have to do that. But that's easier said than done. Because don't you think Danny Garcia's camp is also going to formulate a strategy as well? In order for Danny Garcia to beat Errol Spence, again, I'm not sure if he's going to try to knock him out because it's going to be a chess match between the two. You know, Danny he's a boxer. He's not a knockout artist necessarily. He's going to have to establish a jab. He's going to have to out-jab Errol Spence Jr. He's going to have to go to the body. And honestly, because Errol Spence Jr. is such a powerful fighter, it would be Danny's best interest to establish a body shot game. He's going to have to go to the body. But is Danny Garcia necessarily known for his body shots? He has it in his bag. He has it in his arsenal, but he's gonna have to really train for this and build that muscle memory into his repertoire, into his arsenal to really break down Errol Spence Jr. by going to the body. He has to go to the body. If he doesn't go to the body, he has no chance against Errol Spence Jr. That's how you take the power away from Errol Spence Jr. Again, this is easier said than done, right? But he's gonna have to do this. There's no question about it. Danny Garcia, if you want any chance to beat Errol Spence Jr., you have to go to the body. 100%. And you gotta have to stay on the outside. You have to stay on the outside because guess what? Errol Spence Jr. knows how to bang on the inside. We saw it against Sean Porter, and you're not gonna be able to go toe-to-toe with Errol Spence Jr. going on the inside. Danny Garcia, that's not even your game. So let me know what you guys think. If you guys agree with me, if you guys disagree with me, if there's something that I've missed, I'm sure there's something that I've missed. But chime in, let me know what you guys think about this matchup. I absolutely believe that Danny Garcia, he deserves this fight. He's coming off of 2 solid wins. I know he wasn't really that happy with his last win. I forgot his name. He was this scrappy boxer that kind of bit him in the shoulder, you remember? Not sure, but anyway, he deserves it. He deserves this. So I'm really happy for Danny for landing this. Does he have a chance to beat Errol Spence Jr.? He has a puncher's chance. And he needs to formulate a game plan and execute the game plan absolutely flawlessly in order to beat and outwork Errol Spence Jr., but it's not likely gonna happen because Errol Spence Jr. is just a beast, and he would have to come in out of shape and like mentally not there if he's gonna lose to Danny Garcia. So that's my take, guys. Hopefully I wasn't too disrespectful to Danny Garcia. Again, I support him as a fighter. I respect him as a fighter. I enjoy watching him as a boxer because the guy has skills. But I don't think he's got enough to beat Errol Spence Jr. So let me know what you guys think. Subscribe if you want to subscribe. Give me a like or do your thing. Anyway, chime in. Let's talk about it. Have a good one.